Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video, and this is a paid request for Travis. Thank you so much for that. For those interested in requesting any type of videos, movie reviews, re-reviews, random thoughts, streams, commentaries, video game playthrough for an hour, full playthrough, whatever the case may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal. I do have a CashApp as well. Links are down below in the info box, and I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. And this is for, he said, my thoughts on Abdullah the Butcher, the wrestler. And I really didn't know what to say at first because, to be honest, I've never seen a match with this guy. With wrestling, I'll say this: with wrestling, I'll do a little bit of history on that. When I was a kid, I watched some VHS tapes that we had that my aunt would send. And this was around the era of 1993, 94. So it would have people like Repo Man, Razor Ramon, Berserker, stuff like that. Sadly, I don't have those VHS tapes anymore. Or you would have the Coliseum home video. So it would be usually Hulk Hogan stuff. Because I will admit, as a kid, I was into Hulk Hogan, like a lot of people were. The toys and the promos and that stuff. So I would have the VHS tapes that was the best of Hulkamania. Him versus the Iron Sheik, him versus Andre the Giant, all that stuff. Then around 96, 97, we finally got cable. And then around 97, 98, I started watching a bit of wrestling. And sometimes I would go back and forth between WCW and WWF. And sometimes it'd be like, okay, they don't have a WWF show, and you see Stone Cold Steve Austin, this other stuff, and then WCW, they would run like a rerun. So here's the show, and then here's another one if you want to watch the rerun. So that was a way for me to watch both. Didn't watch it every week, but watch, off and on. Then when we got into early 2000s, I just kind of abandoned it. Steve Austin was now a bad guy, and The Rock was leaving for Hollywood. This is when I liked The Rock. He wasn't overplayed and overstayed. And I just kind of lost interest in wrestling. In fact, the only times I look into wrestling nowadays is if I watch a podcast, YouTube video, whether it be Maven Huffman, Stevie Richards, Jim Cornette, although I despise when he talks about politics. Just I think Jim Cornette is very insipid and stupid and juvenile and infantile when it comes to politics. But his wrestling stories, wrestling knowledge is fantastic to listen to. So I would say overall I'm still a fan. I listened to Rene Dupree, but they don't pretty much do anything anymore. I don't know what happened with him. I don't know if he went back to, I don't know if something happened with his family or he dropped off, drugs. I don't know what happened with that. But that's the only time. And I would see some snippets. I liked CM Punk. A lot of people hate him. I liked him. I like his attitude. Does that probably be my attitude with a lot of people? And it's fun to see. There's this. It's not up anymore, but at one point someone synced like 10 hours of Jim Cornette videos where they synced the matches that he was making fun of, mostly AEW, and those were fun to watch with Jim Cornette's commentary because of how bad it is. So would I watch an old wrestling? Sure. I know someone, if you're watching, I haven't forgotten, has sent me a request to review like an older pay-per-view. Is it TNA? I have it written down. I just have to remind myself of it. But would I be willing to do that? Sure. Would I be able to react? willing to react to one? Sure. Commentary on a WrestleMania? Sure. That'd be interesting to do, a commentary on WrestleMania 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever, those old ones. I'd be intrigued to do that. But that's 5 minutes they did to Abdullah the Butcher, a name who I heard of, but was before my time. And by the time I even understood wrestling, he wasn't really doing a whole lot that I would be able to watch. Just, I looked in, but I knew of the name. This is a guy that was born in 1941 to the name of Larry Shreves. He has this very southern gentleman kind of voice, but the way he looks, if he's mute, he could look like a monster heel. He's bald, he's big, he's fat. Nowadays, he has these huge divots in his head, which I know he looks at it as, well, this may be this much money and this may be this much money. So he's a wrestler that would be, he says he knows a bit of Taekwondo. I think Jim Cornette would say his voice is like if he was the mayor of Munchkin Land. But he got into the business and was pretty much used as the big attraction of, oh, he's the guy you don't want to mess with, because he'll hit and slap and do whatever, and then something with a blade, usually a fork, will come out, and there'll be a bloody match. Because with Abdullah the Butcher, no one really talks about him doing wrestling moves. I mean, he's a big guy, but it's not, he doesn't move like Big Boss Man, or even Yokozuna would do at times, or the Big Show would do at times. He would still move decently slow. People not going to remember a whole lot of moves this guy does. So it's, oh, he's the guy who's mute and he's scary. You don't know if he's real or not real in terms of if he really is that crazy. Bring out that fork. And I mean, as a look, a presence, it works. But I mean, I'm not into wrestling matches where they just bring out a fucking fork and dig in someone's head. That's not really what I got into back in the day, the bits of wrestling I was into. Always don't dig in someone's head in with a fucking fork, or someone does it to his head, to the point that I think someone said you could put, like, gambling chips, you could put them and they would stick in his fucking head. I'm like... But I know he was popular in Tokyo, in Japan. There are matches where he fought against Ricky Steamboat, even against Hulk Hogan in Japan. People like Antonio Inoki, they talked about him. Their tendency would go against people like Lou Thez, steer opponents, use a fork, scary aura about him. And then when it got to like the early 90s, he would get into WCW. And he would get in WCW because Mick Foley was in a feud with Sting. And Sting got this present that might have been a painting. But as he's opening it, Abdullah the Butcher comes in, smacks him, throwing him around. And now Abdullah the Butcher is with Mick Foley against Sting and his guys. Probably the thing I remember him the most that I knew about him before I looked info up about him was Halloween Havoc in 1991, because I didn't see the full pay-per-view. I mean, at the time, we just wouldn't have been able to get the pay-per-view where I was at. Wouldn't be available, because we only had like 4 channels, and there's no way to get pay-per-view of any sort. But I remember hearing about and seeing clips of this throughout the years, where it's Halloween Havoc 1991, like I said, and there's this match involving an electric chair, and you have to put your opponent in the fucking electric chair. And I think people like Vader, Mick Foley as Cactus Jack, I think Sting, the Steiner brothers, I don't know if Steen was in it. I know the Steiner brothers were. And then eventually, I think it was Rich Steiner fought off Abdullah, put him into the chair, flipped the switch, and he acted like he was electrocuted. It's like, just Mick Foley accidentally, he thought he was getting Steiner, but he didn't know that his partner was in the chair. And then it's just one of those things you're watching going, okay, am I really supposed to believe they're going to electrocute some motherfucker in front of all these people and witnesses? Like, really? Yeah. It is what it was. I don't know, man. I don't know. Kind of funny. That's the thing. It just makes me laugh more than anything. It just makes me laugh. So I guess in that way of being entertained, it's something. I, I wonder if the guys from Dead Pit, they must have seen this, but I don't think they ever did like a watch along commentary. That'd be funny to do though. Just I remember those bits. I'd never seen the pay-per-view from beginning to end. So then WCW was in there for a few years, and then ECW he was in like 1993, but he didn't really last too long in those places because you see him, his size, the threat that he can pose, but when you realize he can't really do much in the ring, he's kind of a gimmick attraction. The gimmick of the Force, the gimmick of the other stuff. And once the gimmick runs its course, which is sooner than later, other than Japan, where he would go back and forth many times, and I even watched stories on YouTube of other people who did not like Abdullah the Butcher. New Jack didn't like him, but New Jack didn't like a lot of people. And Kamala, Kamala, I should say, not Kamala. Kamala is how you pronounce it. The Ugandan giant, Kamala. Who in reality was, a southern boy. Talked a little bit like that, rest in peace to him. But he's talking a little bit like this from the south. Seemed like a nice guy, didn't rest in peace to him. Seems like a guy that would always have a nice word for most people, except for this guy. Talking about how he kept a lot of black people out of Japan because he wanted to be the only one. He wanted to be the one with the power and to be that special attraction. And that if you did come over, he would get a percentage. And I believe it because New Jack, he told a story and it was the same bit. Wanted me to come and take a percentage because it's a power play and he takes a percentage, and he also wants to be the top because when you're the top guy you don't want anyone to overtake you because you feel comfortable in that spot. You feel like a sense of job security. And if multiple people, unless he was controlling it, it's like, yeah, he's here, but he's here because of me. And I guess apparently, like, Abdullah tried to do like a Kamala 2. And Kamala has a very interesting story if you look it up. Kamala talks to Abdullah the Butcher. Very interesting video. And honestly, I do believe it. Of course, the other thing I heard about Abdullah the Butcher was, what was that guy? He has a YouTube channel, Hannibal TV. I think his real name is Devin. Well, Hannibal is also a wrestler, as well as a shitty interviewer, that he says he could have gotten to the WWE, but because he wrestled Abdullah and Abdullah would bleed, he didn't tell anybody that he had hepatitis, so now he has hepatitis C, lost his chances at the WWE and sued and won $2.3 million. I don't know how the hell Abdullah Butcher was able to pay that, or some insurance paid, or what happened, or if anything was paid and some other deal was made, I don't know. But this definitely came into prominence when Hannibal did that stupid fucking thing where he was the blood taker. What was the blood oath, blood taker, blood something, blood beater, whatever the fuck, and beat the shit out of a referee and made him bleed, and people were telling him to stop, and apparently Hannibal was drunk, and they got fired, and then he's like, I don't get fired, quit. Hannibal, or as some people call him, Slow Devin, he's an idiot. I mean, you watch his videos, they are so hard, because he talks like this. So here we are with another interview. I'm interviewing Lance Storm. So Lance, what is going on with you? What has been happening? Yeah, I used to do this thing here, but I don't do it anymore. I have no idea. I guess other than the people he gets on his channel to be interviewed, that's why he has so many subscribers. It can't be because of him. Because he doesn't offer anything. He doesn't offer any insight. He's not a good interviewer. He's not a good talker. No one gave a shit about him as a wrestler. So what the fuck does he have to bring to the table? Challenging people to fights in parking lots or whatever the hell he did. I think Abdullah the Butcher still... Now, apparently he did get into the WWE Hall of Fame, which is weird because he's never wrestled in the WWE. Now, I say that because there's other people that never got into the WWE, and they go, well, it's because they never wrestled in that company. Well, neither did Abdullah the Butcher, but he got in. And there's still people who are not in. Like, if I look up... Who's not in the WWE Hall of Fame? Owen Hart, because his wife doesn't want him to. Bam Bam Bigelow. I'm trying to... So they say Vince McMahon, himself, The Rock. The Rock, I mean, that'll be eventual. He'll be in there. Bam Bam Bigelow, I'm surprised by. I'm just kind of looking at some of the people here. Some of these people I don't recognize. Chris Jericho, well, he's in AEW right now. In The Rock, they'll eventually do it. Dave Bautista? He's not in it? What about Lex Luger? Is Lex Luger in it? 2025 class. That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure, yeah. Yeah, Psycho Sid, and I mean, how do you feel about Psycho Sid? He did more for WWE than Abdullah the Butcher ever did, but Psycho Sid never got in. I never minded Psycho Sid. I mean, he wasn't a great wrestler, but he definitely was a presence. He was one of the first guys I remember watching, because I remember... Was it Superstars? It was like a tag team. Sid and Hogan versus Ric Flair and someone else, I think. And then Sid come tab me and then lets go and walks away. He's like, get out of my face. I'd have to. I think it was episode Superstars. I'd have to find that again and watch it just for nostalgia. Because I remember there's like some kind of meeting about like who's going to be up for the to go up for the championship. And like Hulk Hogan say, "Yeah, I got the chance." I wish I could remember. I'm being vague about it. God, can I remember that episode of Superstars? Yeah, I'd have to look about it. I'll do it off camera. Because I swear it was like against Ric Flair and someone else. I swear it was. I think Undertaker, that's what it was. I think it was against Undertaker. I forgot Hogan and Roddy Piper were a tag team. At least for one match. I forgot all about that. Yeah, I think it was like 1992 or so. Anyway. But I mean, the reason I brought all that up is that apparently Abdullah was like, he got into the WWE Hall of fame, but then he was pissed about something. And then eventually he sold his ring, I guess. I was still confused about that whole thing as to why he was so mad. And that's why I'm looking it up. Sorry that I'm doing this off the cuff, but I was still confused as to what the hell? Inducted 2011. He felt he should have been inducted much earlier in his career. Gave it to his brother, saying he felt he deserved the honor sooner. Superstar Billy Graham criticized his induction in the first place. Billy Graham recounts the story of Abdullah blading an amateur Indian wrestler so deadly that the man almost died of blood loss. He continued wrestling blading after he knew he had hepatitis C. Someone says they might as well let New Jack. I mean, true, like New Jack, he was never in WWE, and he's definitely a name people remember as a source of controversy. I mean, yeah, if you think about it, controversial figure, people recognize the name, was known for being bloody and scary, and you're not sure on what he was going to do next. Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you think about it. So anyway. And I don't even know, I think he's retired nowadays. So, there you go. But yeah, that's Abdullah the Butcher. Bit of his career. I mean, I didn't follow the wrestling in Japan, in the States. I'm sure he was maybe in the territories, or you didn't. The WCW, I didn't get to see that era of WCW at all. Because when my aunt would send us tapes, they were never WCW. There was maybe a few bits of WWF. In the 92 era. Because I think one of them was the Superstars that had that. Now I want to look that up. And if I don't type it in here, 1992 Superstars episodes. I don't know if they're available anywhere, but Baby Daily Motion, but I'll look into it. But anyway, yeah. I mean, I don't really know what else to say about Abdullah the Butcher, but hopefully this suffices. I mean, on the one hand, I'm sure he made his money. I can appreciate, the story I read that he got his mom out of working, so he took care of his mom for the rest of her life. That was nice. You see interviews, I mean, he says he's illiterate, like he can't read or write. It would make me wonder how he got so far with business practices if you can't do any of that. But, see, he made a lot of money, but when you see those scars and the huge divots in the head, you kind of go, was it worth it? Maybe it was for him. With that said, thanks for watching, take care, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye for now.